about the shot marker. So I get a lot of questions, both on like Accurate Shooter at my club, people that just email me because they know I deal with these a lot. And a lot of the questions pertain to the menus. What do they mean? How do I change things? So I'm going to break this up into a series because there's just a lot of stuff to cover. But the first one we're going to cover is just the basic settings menu, which is going to be this one up here with the little globe and the battery. Now, the thing to remember is there are two different batteries. There is the battery with the blue globe, which is going to be your actual access point. That is the data collection unit. And there's only one of those. Like if you're at a match or you're running multiple sensor hubs, there's only one of those. And then this one here, this is your actual target, your sensor hub that is going to have the battery on it. Now you will notice that the battery on the sensor hub lasts for days. The battery over here on your access point usually is about a day at the most. So I'm at 37% with 6 hours left, and it's like a day or two at the most. I want to say it's like a day. Um, so anyway, if we go up here to the menu and we click on it, this is going to be the general settings menu for the shot marker. You obviously have, like we talked about, the battery for your access point, how much memory you have free. Now you can see here, I have 94% of my memory free. That is an estimated 113,000 shots it can still record. So there is a ton of memory on here. And then obviously date and time. So under the display preferences, you're going to see grid, velocity, stats, shots, sighters, and caliber. Now there's a hidden menu that you can't see, and I'm going to show you how to access that in a minute. And it's probably one of the number one questions I get because it is a pretty critical menu, but it's only accessible when you're doing certain things on the shot marker. So let's start off with grid. So grid is going to allow you to put either a 1 minute or a 0.2 mil or a 1 inch grid overlay, and we don't really use this too often, but it's a great function for people to learn about any given target. So, here I am with a 1,000 yard target that you can see. Now I could easily switch to a 600 yard target, and now you can see what 1 minute is. But again, a 600 yard target to a 1,000 yard target, it's going to be the same. Center X to the 9 ring is basically 1 minute. It doesn't matter if you're on a 600 yard target or a 1,000 yard target. But using a grid like this, you can definitely teach people to read uh, a target and understand what their holdoffs are going to be in terms of minutes or rings. In F class, we call a lot of rings, so 1 ring right, 2 rings right, 3 rings right. It's important to know how that corresponds to minutes. And so having the overlay is good for that. Other than that, we don't really use it too much. Then we have velocity. Obviously, in the States, we use feet per second. Anywhere else in the world, it's going to be meters per second. So choose accordingly. Stats. This one gets switched around a lot. So we've got score, inch, millimeters, MOA, and mil. The last four are simply different ways to display a group size. So if I choose inch, and let me pull up an old target so you can see something here. So right here, you see where it says 15.5 inches? So that is the group size because of the selection here for inch. If I were to choose, mil, for instance, now my group size is 0.443 mils. So depending on how you shoot and what you want to do, that's how you would uh, go. Now, score would be the one difference. That is going to be for matches where you actually want to display 145 7x as a score, for instance. Now, no matter which of these options you choose, you are going to see the velocity average, which I'm just going to tell you straight up, it's largely anecdotal. It is a very, very crude measurement and should not be used in any way for like load development. Same thing with your SD. So you can look at them, you can at least get some generalized idea at target, but keep in mind there are a lot of factors between muzzle and target that affect these numbers. So do not trust them in any kind of development way. Now, even if I turn off stats, you'll see average and SD are still there, and it shows you how many shots you've taken. It just simply removes anything that populates right here. Then we have shots. Now this one is going to be definitely geared towards whether you're using it just for yourself or for a match. When I'm just shooting by myself and doing stuff, I just put it on all. That means that as you shoot your rounds, they instantly show up. All of the shots show up at the same time. Nothing's hidden, nothing like that. With recent, it's only going to show up shots that are kind of concurrent as you shoot. But then when you get into delayed and restricted, you start getting into more of your match settings. So right here you have delayed, which you can choose a 7 second or a 10 second. And then you might have seen the default is actually a 6 second if you don't choose one of these two. But like NRA rules is 7 seconds. I don't remember 10 seconds. That might be like an ICFRA thing. I can't remember. But anyway, 7 seconds is what we use for all our matches. And then you have restricted, which is going to be the same 7 second delay, but if another shot arrives on your target within that 7 seconds, it actually scores a 0. Now, we don't really use this, and I'm sure there's match situations where you could use it. The problem that we've had using this setting is that if somebody crossfires onto your target, it instantly scores it as 0, and then you still end up in the same situation where you're trying to determine, what was the crossfire, what was the score that should have been there. So we just use the delayed 7 seconds. And then disabled is a relatively new feature from last year that allows you to create sort of a pseudo blow off period. The downside to using the disabled function is that everything is still going to technically record. It just isn't visible to the shooters, but the data is all there, meaning as soon as you turn it off and go back to like a delayed function, you're going to see scores pop up as if they had been shooting. So you still have to go in and you have to hit the tablet and you have to just, save the target to start over, which we'll get into on another episode here. But it's honestly kind of annoying. It's a good feature. It's a little clunky, and unless you really have to have a true blow off period, we just typically do unlimited cider matches. The disabled function for doing a blow off period would really come into play on something where you have a true blow off period and then like only two ciders before you go for record, where you really want to manage those two ciders. Otherwise, I'd say just try to run unlimited cider matches. It's a lot easier, in my opinion. Then we have the cider functions. So we have none, which obviously means it's going to instantly start recording for record. We can do one cider, and then we can do two ciders. Now, if you look at this, I'm just going to go here so it's brighter, but this was shot under a one cider situation. So the one cider here is not in a box, so that means it's a cider. And then once it's in a box, that means it's for record. Okay, so that was a one cider situation. Two ciders, it would show two ciders and then instantly go for record. Two convertible ciders, it's a little complicated, but it allows you to convert two ciders. And then unlimited ciders means you shoot as many ciders as you want, and then there will be a go for record. In fact, I will show you here. So if I close this out, see where this begin record is? So if I was shooting, it would be showing me my ciders up here, and I have to physically click on begin record in order to start my actual record rounds. And if you're running a match, it's really important that you convey that to people. Okay, then we have caliber. So obviously you can choose a default caliber for your targets. I will tell you that almost every match I shoot in, everybody defaults to 308, since there are a variety of 30 cal, 6 mil, and 284, uh, and 6.5. You've got basically four different calibers that could be shooting at any given time. So we kind of default to the largest caliber, and that's actually pretty common. I will tell you, I have tested, I mean, close to 100 targets in terms of switching between even 224, like a 223 up to 308, and literally a handful of points change across 100 targets. The only time this would really come into play is if somebody shoots in a registered match where, maybe you're trying to get a national record or something like that, and you would want to make sure at that point if they were shooting a, 6.5 or whatever, that you click on the appropriate uh, caliber so that you can verify that score still holds true with um, with that particular caliber. So that's really important. Now, we talked about a hidden menu, and that hidden menu comes into play. Now, this is a fresh target, meaning no shots have been taken on it. As soon as you have shots on target, and I'm just going to pull up an older target here for you to see, as soon as you do that, uh, you are now going to see that if I double clicked, do you see how I did that? And if you double tap on your iPad or whatever, it's going to do that. This opens up a measurement box that I can now drag over any section. It could be any number of shots. And you'll notice as I drag this box, all the relevant shots are going to turn white. Now you're probably wondering why there's some black shots in there. That's because those are the ciders. Okay, so see there's two black ciders there, and then the white shots are all for record. When you do these measurement boxes, it only measures record shots. So even if you're shooting by yourself, make sure you have it set for record if you want to have this measurement box. You'll see it tells me 12 shots, the group size, the width of the group, and the height of the group. You can control that via this hidden menu that has now popped up that says analysis. So I can put in any of these dimensions or stats that I want. So if I just want to be obscene here, I'll choose all of them just to show you. So now I have all of this information. I have extreme spread, my SD, my velocity. I mean, everything in here. Obviously, I don't really use any of those. I don't care about um, really much of any of this stuff. I'll leave size, width, and height on, and that's it. And then you will see that now I can control. If I want to measure the whole group, great. It's an 11.4 inch group with a width of 10.7 and a height of 11.3. And then if I have only certain shots I want to measure, maybe I only want to measure shots 1 through 10 or something. Now I'm on my computer, which does not make it ideal for zooming in, so I can't do that easily. But if you were on an iPad and you were to pinch in, you would be able to see shot numbers on here. And that would definitely make life easier if you were trying to identify particular shots. And then you could drag your boxes to measure, whichever shots you wanted to get a good measurement on. So that's the hidden menu that I was telling you about. The last thing on your settings menu is going to be your system management. I can choose my security level, low, medium, high. You can set a password. Each of these is going to dictate things that lock people out of being able to change anything. You really just need to play with these to see what fits your particular needs. I used to be really critical and set a medium to high security level for my matches. And honestly, it's just kind of a pain to get in and out. Every time you refresh or do something like that, you're constantly entering a password. Unless you are really worried about people messing with your system, I would either just set it to low or I would set it to none and just make life easy. It's very, very rare that I ever have somebody mess with something. And the nice thing is, it changes on the fly. So if somebody does accidentally tap something and it changes it, you can instantly change it back and fix it. If you're really concerned about having some level of protection, you might choose low. But again, this is going to really be dependent on your needs. We then have a show all targets tab. Now, right now, I only have one sensor hub hooked up. If I had other sensor hubs hooked up, it would show me different targets down here. And then if there were other targets, maybe from other shot markers that are on a different channel, or I'm sorry, on the same channel but not part of your system, it would show them. Uh, Typically, what we want during a match is to hide unused targets. So we would click on that, and then only the relevant targets are going to show up. We can do a shot simulator. If I click on this, now, if I double click, uh, uh, sorry, I'm not on an iPad right now, so it makes it tougher. But if I was doing the shot simulator, normally you would double tap and it will let you simulate a shot in here. We don't use it very often, but sometimes you have to manually generate a shot in order to clear a target, which I'll go over later. Switching channels. So this is a little tricky. He's done a much better job over the last couple updates. This has gotten a lot easier. You just have to make sure that your channels correspond with your sensor hubs. And if I were to change this, I'm not going to because I'm making the video, but you would click on this and then you'd want to make sure that you switch this to channel 3 as well, or you would click here and click to channel 3, and then you'd have to make sure you switched over your Wi-Fi to Shotmarker 2 or Shotmarker 3, or I'm currently on Shotmarker 4, as you can see here. So that's important, and he does a good job of spelling it out. It used to be a little trickier. One note about, you'll notice that there's all of these boxes, and I can just tell you that there's no way to get rid of these boxes that I'm aware of, so I typically will just move them out of the way if I accidentally create one or if I make one and need to keep shooting or something. Then we have, uh, so I'm going to take it off shot. Then we have switch channels, which we just did. Export CSV, this is really good if you need the backend data, and I can choose Uh, well, I haven't shot in the last day or week, no, month. So uh, this is going to make a huge file, and it'd be easier if I didn't show it to you because it's going to take a couple minutes, and I don't want to waste the time here. But when you do this, it's going to open up a thing that either asks you to view it or download it. I would just say whatever your needs are, but like what I do is I view it and then I can email it to the guy that does my scoring, and we've got an automated process that automatically converts our scores for any of our leagues that we do. But it's a very simple CSV file that you can do a lot of good data with. In fact, I'll go ahead and do it just to show you here while I talk about the rest. You can save a backup. Oh, that did actually go quicker because it's right here on my computer. Uh, so in this particular case, it's only going to let me save the backup because I'm not on my pad. And then let me go here real quick and I'll show you. So this is what the data is going to look like. You can see here it's going to have the targets. It's going to show you who shot. You've got all your XY data, pitch, yaw, stuff like that. The time, date stamps, your sighters, your shot numbers, and all of that. And it shows you. So this is all of my data for like the last month. So anyway, that's what that looks like. Uh, then we can save a backup. This is really important if you don't want to lose any of your data because if something happens to your memory card, it's going to go kaput. So if you save a backup periodically, it's just a very small compressed file. It's also the only way that Adam can help you if you have a problem with your shot marker. He cannot look at the CSV data and tell you if there's problems with the actual shot marker. He needs the actual backup data. So there could be a time where you need his help and you'd want to make sure that you actually have a backup file for them. And then if you have a new access point or you're having problems, you need to restore the backup, this is where you would do it. And then we have the software update, which, he does periodic updates. The last one was last April, I believe. And this is where you would do it. So there's just the getting started with your settings menu. I'm going to do a few more of these and go over some of the more detailed stuff on the targets and sensor hub stuff like that. But hopefully this helps get you started if you are new to shot markers or you're having problems. Thanks a lot. Talk to you soon.